During a recent motorhome adventure, I stayed on a campsite on the outskirts of Bath, right next to the River Avon. Being at a bit of a loose end and looking for something to do, we decided to take a tour into Bath and see what all the fuss is about. This video was captured to record our day in the city of Bath and also to accompany my motorhome blog. I've included the link to the blog in the description of this video for you to check out, if you're interested of course. Without further ado, here's my day out in Bath. Rather than take a bus from the campsite, Bath Marina and Caravan Park, we decided to make the 1.5 mile hike along the River Avon. The walk was easy going, however on the outskirts of the city the river area appears to be a little on the rough side with some very intimidating characters around. The other thing I noticed about the route was the graffiti. I realise this is a problem in many towns and cities in the UK, and there are problems with it in my hometown, but there does seem to be an awful lot of it along the River Avon. Graffiti can be an art form, however what I saw most definitely is not, and it was nothing but tagging. Other than the graffiti, the walk along the River Avon was very pleasant. Most of the Royal Victoria Park seemed to be a playground for kids, so I didn't bother venturing in that part with a camera. Some of the park, however, was grass, trees, and an escape to get away from the hustle and bustle, and also an excuse to go and see some ducks. The Royal Crescent is one of the most iconic streets not only in Bath but also in the UK, and now I have seen it for myself I can understand why. The Royal Crescent is very impressive, and to fully appreciate it you have to see it for yourself. It is a shame you can't get closer to the buildings, but then it is a residential area and people actually live there. It must be weird having thousands of tourists standing at the end of your street photographing your home, but then buyers are fully aware of this before signing on the dotted line and moving in. What surprised me about the Royal Crescent were the cars and how the majority of them were family-sized Fords, Vauxhalls, Seats and the like. There were a few of the larger and more prestige cars, but not as many as I thought there would have been. I also only spotted one supercar, a red Porsche, and I would have thought there would be more sports cars there too. I would love to know how much a property on the Royal Crescent cost, but I didn't see one for sale in any of the estate agents. The closest I found was a 2-bed apartment on a street adjacent to the Royal Crescent, and that was on the market for a cool £2 million. The Circus is a little up the road from the Royal Crescent and comprises more grand, historical and expensive properties in a circle around a small grassy area. I had never heard of the Circle before, so I assume it is not one of Bath's must-sees, but if you like architecture and old buildings it is well worth a look. The Guildhall is yet another historic building that should be on the list of things to see. It is yet another old grand building full of character. Inside the Guildhall there is a small market which you may find interesting. If you want a traditional Bath bun, the deli in the Guildhall market is one of the few places that sells them. When the lady behind the counter told me this, I have to say I was a bit sceptical and didn't believe her, but after walking around Bath in search of the Bath bun, I now see that I should have not doubted her. The Guildhall market may not be big, but it is still worth a look around, if not to look at the interior architecture. The Roman baths are now a museum and carry a hefty entrance fee. The Roman bath leaflet at the campsite I had a look at before going to Bath suggested setting aside 2 hours for the Roman baths, and with the full itinerary I had planned, there was no way that this would be feasible. Because of this, I didn't go into the Roman baths, however it is on the list for future visits. The Abbey is one of the must-see things in Bath, and as it dominates the skyline, it is impossible to miss. The Abbey is indeed an impressive and photographic building. Being a non-believer, it felt a bit hypocritical to go into the Abbey, so I can't comment on the inside. Whilst I may be a non-believer, I do appreciate architecture, and because of this, I would say the Abbey should be on the must-see list. Just down from the Abbey is Abbey Green, a quaint and attractive square with a few outlets on it, including the Bath Bun Bakery. If the deli in the Guildhall market is out of Bath buns, this is an alternative place to buy one. Abbey Green is yet another place you need your camera with you. Just off Abbey Green is the Sally Lunn Cafe. The premises date back to 1482 and claims to be the oldest house in Bath. The Sally Lunn Cafe is also the only place, not only in Bath but also the world, where you can buy a Sally Lunn bun, established in 1680, and it is for this reason you need to go. This is a quaint cafe selling cakes, buns and refreshments that is impossible to describe and is best experienced. Built in 1713, the Saracens Head claims to be the oldest pub in Bath, so it is the lunchtime eatery. The building is superb and reeks of not only stale beer but also history. If you like your low-ceilinged, dark, dank pub full of character and atmosphere, you will love the Saracens Head. Whilst the building is superb, I can't say the same about the food. Being part of the Green King group, the food is okay but nothing more. I would recommend the Saracens Head for a quick drink, other than a tea or coffee, both of which are uber expensive, and a look around, but would suggest finding an alternative place to eat. The Grand Parade is a road running alongside the river, and if you want stunning views, this is the place to get it. From the Grand Parade there are clear views of Pulteney Bridge, the river, the weir, River Sidewalk and also Parade Gardens. Walking over Pulteney Bridge is an anticlimax and disappointing. The high sides means you can't look over the bridge and see the river, the weir or anything else, and when you're crossing over Pulteney Bridge it doesn't seem like you're crossing a bridge at all. The Parade Gardens are accessed off the Grand Parade. The Parade Gardens are said to offer the clearest views of the Pulteney Bridge, and for the best photos this is supposedly the place to go. The Parade Gardens do look picturesque, however with an entrance fee of £4 we didn't think it was worth walking around. I realise £4 isn't a great deal of money, but by the time we reached the Parade Gardens I had spent a small fortune and had nothing to show for it. Like all tourist-trapped cities, the businesses of Bath certainly know how to extract cash from the tourists. If you want to tick off all the parks in Bath, like I did, Henrietta Park is obviously a must-see. If you're not bothered about the parks, I wouldn't recommend Henrietta Park, and there are two main reasons for this. Firstly, other than grass, trees, hedges and paths, there's nothing else there. Secondly, Henrietta Park is not near the main centre and other must-see things, therefore you're going to have to go for a walk to get there. The Riverside Walk is accessed from the left-hand side of the Pulteney Bridge heading towards the city centre. As soon as you set foot on the Riverside Walk you can see Pulteney Bridge to the right, and directly opposite there is the weir and also the columns under the Grand Parade. Great Pulteney Street heads away from Pulteney Bridge to the Holborn Museum and Sydney Gardens. Whilst it is no more than a street lined with large, historical and very expensive flats, houses and businesses either side, Great Pulteney Street is definitely worth walking along as the buildings and architecture is simply stunning. The Holborn Museum is at the end of Great Pulteney Street and at the front of the Sydney Gardens. From the front, the museum is, as you'd expect, an impressive historical building. Behind the museum is the cafe, which is not only a contemporary glasshouse but an eyesore too, and it looks totally out of place. The Sydney Gardens is yet another park in Bath. However, this one is said to be for the elite, and even claims Jane Austen was a frequent visitor. It is a stunning park, and the railway and the canal runs through it. Sydney Gardens is a bit of a walk from the city centre, but it is well worth it. My better half is a bit of a bookworm, and after finding this bookshop doing a bit of pre-trip internet searching, it appeared on the must-see list during the visit to Bath. Bookshops don't normally impress me, but I have to say that this one did. Most bookshops have closed down in my local area, although a few larger shops will have a small selection of books tucked away in a corner somewhere. This shop sells nothing but books, and it is stuffed to the rafters with them. We spent far more time in the bookshop than I ever thought we would, and the complimentary coffee was well needed. I'll sum up my day while showing a slideshow of some photos captured during the day. Bath is a beautiful city that is full of history, architecture and stunning buildings, and there is something to look at around every corner. I thought the city would be busier than it was, but then it was a cold day in late October. I assume Bath is rammed during the summer months and school holidays. I did find a culture of let's extract as much cash as we can from the tourists, but this is the same of all tourist destinations. I hate the rip-off culture, but there's little we can do about it. I found that if you want reasonably priced food and drink, you have to go to the national chains. For example, a large mug of tea and coffee in Cafe Nero was £4, whereas a small, no make that tiny, cup of tea and coffee in the Saracens Head cost £5 and 5 pence. Buying from local establishment costs a lot more and you get a lot less for it, and whilst I would love to support the local businesses, it's not financially viable and most of the time I have to vote with my wallet. Bath is a city I will return to at some point in the not too distant future.